𝙑𝙞𝙨𝙪𝙖 here. So glad that we want to join you guys this. If you're catching this live or catching the replay, thank you guys so much for watching this. We just learn more about deliverance, especially what's been going on. People getting set free and delivered from things, and I know this is kind of things that I love doing anyway.
We love it.
So we just love talking about this, and so sometimes people just need to hear some encouragement, or maybe just need to hear the simplistic things about deliverance and just some different topics that we're going to talk about. So I figure we'll just hop on here, maybe daily, every other day or something, and just talk some little aspect about deliverance and why you might need it.
Yeah.
And so today we just want to talk about, signs and symptoms of what it may look like if you feel like you need to have deliverance, So that's what we kind of want to talk about. So
yeah, and I think it's so important, you guys. For those of you that are just hopping on, Tim and Donna Avery with Visual Testaments. So glad you're joining us. I just want to first preface this too. This is the why. A lot of people don't understand why. Why is everybody talking about deliverance? Why would I even want to? Sensitive topic too.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some of the things and the symptoms that we're talking about that, if you've got children close by, you probably don't want them listening. But I definitely want to preface this with, this is a sensitive topic because a lot of the situations that we're going to describe
could be like really personal to you,
very personal,
specifically, but
and private.
But what Dawn and I realized though is that sometimes people hide behind the walls because or put up walls and hide behind them because they don't want anybody to know what's really, there's things that
and if they haven't,
that you can relate to, especially that things that I have specifically have had happen to me that I've gotten free from, that you may be struggling with if you're watching this, or may know somebody who's struggling with this, and you may want to share this with them, that they can have freedom and hope from it too. So that's why we just like so that they can be free, or know that they can be set free from all that stuff.
Yeah, and if you haven't heard our testimonies, we both wrote books.
Yeah.
And it was all God, because we literally both sat up in our beds one day and looked at each other, and instead of saying good morning, we both looked at each other and said, we're going to write our books. I'm going to write my book this morning.
Yeah.
And we were both like our mouths flung open, because in 90 days from that moment, they were done and published.
Yep.
That's not us. Those that know us well know that we had said we weren't ever going to write our books. So all God. But I just want to say, like, we know there's a need.
Yeah.
We know that we personally would be, you've heard us say, everyone needs deliverance.
Yeah.
It's as good as an oil change. You get it for your car, why not get it for yourself? But a lot of times people don't understand what it is, and I think all too often people have this perception
or
of
negative
what
connotation.
Yeah, they have a perception of what deliverance is based off a name. I've heard people say it needs to be called Freedom Ministry or whatever, but whatever it is, whatever you want to call it, here's what it is. It's healing. It's healing yourself. The Lord heals you. The Holy Spirit will heal you, because the Father is your creator. What better way to get healing than going back to the person who made you?
That's good.
And the person who made you was not your mom and dad. It's the Father. Go into Genesis, and I promise you, He created you from the foundations of the earth. He knew you had a purpose.
Yes, He knitted you in the mother's womb.
He did. So He knows from the get-go that He created all this world for us, because He wanted to have us in the right soil, the right atmosphere. And so what the enemy did was he then tried to pervert it all. And so that obviously doesn't change. We end up seeing, as long as we're on this earth, we're going to see that situation come up against when we're trying to do good. Have you ever tried to do something good and you're like, I am just trying so hard to not overeat, to not drink too much,
to not be frustrated or angry with somebody,
to not want to punch my fist through a wall? Like, have you ever tried to just fix yourself, and it just doesn't seem to work? It doesn't
behavior
last
modification,
long.
Right? Is that
correct.
Getting at, behavior modification.
It's behavior modification, and you feel like every time you turn around, you get to going pretty well, and you get some strides, but then it just knocks you right back off. Well, I'm here to tell you, there's some symptoms that we're going to be going over that you may go, you can get completely free from it there's things that Tim and I have experienced that we tried for a lifetime to get rid of and could not until we got deliverance.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then it was like boom, it was like everything took the blinders off then. And that's why we're so excited about it. That's why we will always speak deliverance, because we know the power of what it's done.
Yeah.
Okay? And then it says in Proverbs, don't withhold anything good that could help someone. So you want to go over?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, you know, like, just to add on what you're saying, like deliverance is just freedom. You know, if you think about that, deliverance just sets people free. Whatever deliverance you need to be from, you know, you're being set free from something. And so in a nutshell, that's exactly what deliverance is. So if you are feeling like you have these symptoms of like being angry or being rageful or anxious or depressed, or even some of the dirty, like, you know, nasty ones, like, you know, being full with lust, you know, those types of things. If those things start driving you or causing you to make decisions or choices, or causing you to act in a way, you could be being influenced by demonic presence or oppression, causing you to make those decisions. Even we were talking about, you know, if you're sleeping, if you're in the bed and you wake up in the morning and you have like some type of nocturnal emission or wet dream or whatever, and you maybe been watching something that you shouldn't have been watching, or, you know, been watching something like a movie that had not necessarily porn, but it could just be a movie that's like heavily laden in like sexual activity of, like, you know, I think it was one of those TV series called like Sex and the City or something like that, just overly sexual, you know. And so those things, what we're going to get into talking about is just opening up those types of doors, which causes those symptoms that you're feeling, you know. So if you have any types of fears or anything like that, those could be symptoms that are causing you, that are causing that pain or frustration or anything like that that's going on in your life. And so we want to just talk to you guys about that real quick, or what are some of these symptoms. So just I touched on a couple of them already. Like if you have like an overwhelming sense of like frustration, like all the time, you know, like you're frustrated with everything, like you're frustrated with work, you're frustrated with your wife, you're frustrated with your kids, you're blah, yeah, blah, yada, yada, yada. If that's like a dominant thing in your life, you're definitely being oppressed by some spirit of frustration or anger or rage. And that's something that you need to be aware of. And so you need deliverance from that. If you feel anxious, or if you feel depressed all the time about something, you know, like if you're anxious, you're always looking behind your back, you feel like something's going to happen wrong, or something's always going to happen to somebody else, or something's always going to happen to you, or somebody's following you, or whatever. Those are spirits that are like oppressing you. The fact it's causing you to make decisions and choices that you would normally not make. And so those things is called a demonic influence that's pressuring you to make choice or decision, or even causing you to sin, or pressuring you to sin. They can't force us forcibly to sin. Like, can't make us, you know, can't twist our arm behind our back and make us sin. But those forces of a demonic influence can cause you to make choices to cause you to sin. And I'll just say this too. You know, we live in a world where there's light and there's dark. We all know that. You know, whether you're have a worldly view or happening in the world, and we know that as the angels of light, you know, and then there's dark forces, the demonic forces, you know, God's forces versus demonic forces. And so to be cognizant of that, to understand what's actually going on in a realm we cannot see, there's a lot of activity going on, whether we realize that or not. You know, we can, there's things that could cause you, and I'll say this too, you know, you got to consider other things too that may be causing this demonic influence. Like I said before, I kind of alluded to this before, which is, you know, that you may be opening up doors for that demonic activity, because a demon can't just come up to you and just cause you to sin. You know, they have to be invited, or they have to be there has to be a door opened, whether you realize that or not, or knowingly or unknowingly, you've opened a door for a demonic person to have access to you. And I'm not just saying like doing a seance, which that absolutely does, but I'm just saying like there's even lesser things that that you give rights to a demon to possess, not to best, but to cause oppression over you. And so you're watching certain types of movies, like I said, if it was like filled with lust, like Sex and the City or something like that, you're watching something like overly sexual, you're opening up a door for that lustful spirit to come in, to cause either you to start looking at other people, causing you to have thoughts and ideas of what you may want to do with that person sexually, things like that may cause you to have nocturnal emissions, you know, having those wet dreams, things like that. You know, music also. You know, if you're constantly listening to the same music and all the music is talking about sex or gangbanging or fear or violence or to be anxious about something, you know, or drinking or whatever. You know, if these music lyrics are filled with this type of uh, you know, lifestyle, then you may want to consider that. Like, what are you always, you know, what are you renewing your mind with? Like, what are you washing your brain with over and over again? Is it these types of lyrics? And no wonder if that's the type of lifestyle that you're in, if you're constantly listening to this type of music, or if you always find yourself depressed, or you feel like you're always in a rage, or you're always angry, or you're like I said, you have these lustful thoughts or whatever. Is the music that you're listening to have that same type of that vibe or that same type of genre? And if so, would you consider to close that door, stop listening to that type of music, renounce that you've listened to that music? And we'll talk about like how to do all this deliverance stuff too, and just see simple prayers that help gets rid of all this stuff. You know, maybe movies that you've been watching. You know, like if you are addicted to watching fear-based movies, you know, things like, you know, I'm really gonna tell my age here, but like Freddy Krueger movies or Jason movies or these newer movies about Purge or what are some of these newer, you know, Halloween movies that are just, you know, filled with like fear, scare tactics, somebody dying, or you know, these types of movies that are just meant to like cause fear, and you're like addicted to be scared or startled or whatever. If you watching those types of movies and you find yourself afraid of the dark, or you have these unnatural fears of certain things,
Right.
you know, these things are open doors. Watching these types of movies are open doors to allow the spirit of fear to come on you. So you're always afraid of something. You're always looking behind your back. You're afraid to be alone. You're afraid to be somewhere. Because it reminds you of the movies that you've watched, and that's a spirit of fear that's causing you to act in a not normal way towards things. Like we should not have a fear of darkness, because we carry the light everywhere we go. So if we walk everywhere carrying the Holy Spirit with us, then that should in and of itself cast out any darkness, because we carry the light. And so those things. So like I said, we talked about music, we talked about movies, we talked about TV. So I want you guys to just think about those things. If there's anything in your life right now that may be contributing to the way that you're feeling. So if you've got frustration or anger, do you watch those types of movies? Do you feel with anger, or do you listen to that type of music, or do you watch that type of TV or shows that are just filled with that type of stuff? Because if it is, you need to shut that. Or if you're reading books, or if you're scrolling on social media, or if you're watching pornography, obviously that's a dead giveaway. Those types of things you need to be cognizant of, because those are open doors. And so we could talk about deliverance, but there's always that, well, once I get set free from this thing, can I fall back into it? Well, yeah, because if those doors aren't closed, you're inviting those spirits to come right back to you. And so you got to be cognizant of the things that are around you, the things that you're doing. So
yeah, well, and I want to add to that, because I want to say, like, especially like night terrors. Yeah. When he talks about Nightmare on Elm Street. Look, when I was in junior high and high school, I watched scary movies all the time. I don't watch those. I haven't watched those for years now, because I understand that you are what you eat. And so if you again,
nightmares,
if you're not watching the gate, your eyes and your ears, and you're letting all this stuff in, which I did. I watched all those scary movies, and even if you let one in, that's all it takes to open a door. Mm-hmm. That's all it takes is one to open many doors.
Yep.
Just one time. And you know, so a lot of people might not think that they need it, but if you've been struggling with these things, and then all of a sudden you get completely set free, not just a little bit, but completely, then you go, oh my gosh, it was so worth it to get deliverance, because I now don't have, I thought this was something you just always deal with, and that this is kind of natural and normal, but it's not. And you can be free. So that's why people get so excited with deliverance, because they know in freedom ministry you really can be free. Now, if you guys, we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube with this. So if for some reason you see a delay in any of it in the feed, feel free to go join us, and you can watch it on YouTube. It's being saved. and you can go back later and
Yeah.
watch it. So I just want to point that out with YouTube or Instagram on our Visual Testaments handles. But I do want to point out that, like, seriously, you do not have to live this way.
Yep.
There is freedom that the Lord, that's why he died, so you could give the helper. And we talked about that on the previous one. So make sure that you take advantage of the benefits that have already been paid for you to be free. To be free. And we have so many different friends that do deliverance ministry for free. As we are here also for you. If you need anything, make sure you email us, info@visualtestaments, or just DM us. But we can put you in contact with help. It doesn't have to be something that you deal with forever and worry about even a cost. So
yeah, so I mean, so we're excited. So like I said, we want to be on here constantly, as often as we can, just sharing little different aspects of deliverance. And so join us. You know, we'll talk a little bit more about other things about that. So if you have any questions you want us to talk about it, let us know, and we'll talk about it on here. But yeah, so hopefully you guys got a little bit from this, and hopefully you start shutting those doors that's causing these things that are causing these demonic oppressions and influences on your life. So
we can recommend a lot of resources too to learn, books, videos to learn how to close these doors. So but the important thing is you, even if you close the doors, remember to get deliverance so that you also get this stuff rooted out, and your children don't have to deal with this, because a lot of open doors can also affect them, just even going through you. So we want to make sure that we have healthy families and healthy people, because we love you guys. So tag a friend that you want to share this with, or share this with them in messengers, and we'll be glad to be here if you guys need to talk.
Amen. All right, bless you guys.
Bless you guys.